Hey y'all, it is June, which means it is Pride Month. Happy Pride Month to all who celebrate. I hope that everyone goes out and enjoys this month and takes it by the horn. So stay safe though, wear a mask, and have fun. Now, one of the things that happens every June is when you scroll on Netflix, Hulu, maybe even Disney Plus, Prime, you get your LGBT section, you get your Pride Month collection, you get all these different movies and TV shows that have to do with queer representation. And so I'm going to narrow down that list for you and watch all of these things that have been suggested, and I am going to rank them. I'm going to post every day for the month of June where I give a review about some different type of queer media, whether it be a movie or a TV show. And then by the end of the month, I'll have a full ranking of all of them. So at the end of each video, I'm going to give it a score and then show where it falls. I don't know if y'all can hear the music. But anyway, then at the end of each episode, I'm going to give it a score, overall score, and then it is going to be ranked with all of the other things I talked about previously. I'm going to jump right in with a TV show that I know people are going to roll their eyes and be like, why is he starting with this? Before I even announce the show, some of you are going to know what it is already just from me saying that, because it has not aged well. I see it getting a lot of hate on TikTok and stuff. People see clips from it who didn't see it at the time, and they're like, what is this? You probably guessed it by now. I'm talking about GLEE. Okay, so let me just address the elephant in the room. GLEE is getting a lot of shade right now. It's getting drugged on social media. I literally just saw this TikTok a few seconds ago.
So I've never watched GLEE before, and it comes up on my For You page quite often. But every time I see a clip, I'm like, this can't be real. This can't actually be from a genuine TV show.
And I know that they're coming on Disney Plus. A new generation is going to be seeing it. And I just recently rewatched GLEE, and so I know it hasn't aged well. And I know to a modern audience now, they'll be like, what is this? Why was a generation so sprung on this show? Why does a generation claim GLEE so hard? Because I was a Gleek. I'll say it right now. I was full on Gleek. Here's a picture of me and my sister like watching GLEE back in the day. Like, GLEE was a move, but GLEE was honestly so important for its time, which I'll talk about in a second. And it really opened my mind though, talking to people who are seeing GLEE now for the first time who didn't see it when it was out, because it really just shows how much the world has changed in like the last 10 years. Well, I think it's been like 12 years now. And I really haven't been like aware of it because, you know, the frog and like the boiling water, you don't really feel the temperature happening because it's so slow. And it kind of makes me really happy to see the hate that GLEE's getting. That sounds weird. The criticism GLEE's getting, because I feel like it shows how much we've come in terms of queer representation. Anyway, let's jump right into GLEE. So for those who do not know, it was a show that came out in 2009. It ran for 6 seasons, and it centers around Will Schuster, who is a teacher at McKinley High. He starts a GLEE club, which is a musical theater club that performs, and they are trying to get to the national competition and win, even though they have people actively trying to stop them, particularly Sue Sylvester, who's the head of the cheerleading squad, who does not want to share the funding or the spotlight. Within this GLEE club, we get a bunch of different types of people. We have the outcasts, basically. We have Rachel Berry, who I do not like and don't have much good to say about. Kurt Hummel, who is gay. Mercedes, who I guess she's outcast because she's black. We'll talk about that separately. Quinn Fabray, who's pregnant, a pregnant teen. Artie, who's in a wheelchair. Tina, who is just weird and fakes a stutter.
Do you ride a broomstick or a chopper stick? Don't stutter. It's not nice.
The joke's on you, Parkerman. My stutter is fake. Not even Meryl Streep herself could fake a stutter for 3.5 years.
See, I'm hearing it, y'all. I'm just letting you know, I do hear it. When I'm explaining the plot, I hear why people are like, What is this show? I heard it. I heard it. Oh, let me make this perfectly clear. When it comes to things like race, the show, there's a lot of things that show did not do well and is borderline high-key offensive when you watch it now. We're not talking about that though. For the Pride, for Pride Month, I'm just reviewing the queerness of it. And that is why I think GLEE is important. I think that's where GLEE soared. So let's just rewind the clocks. Rewind, wind back to 2009, rewind. Boom, look around, look. Anyway. So the culture, I think, was very different. And it wasn't until I was going to make this video and I was really thinking back. And like I said, it kind of makes me happy because I realized how much the culture has shifted. But as far as society's view of LGBT and Q people and queer people, it was, I mean, obviously it was different. But I didn't realize how different it was. I feel like even the people who weren't blatantly homophobic, there was just a general consensus that queer people were fine as long as they were behind closed doors. Maybe that was just the area I grew around and the community I was in. There was always like an awareness of gay people, but they definitely weren't in the spotlight. Like people, it was kind of like a don't ask, don't tell policy on just the world. Like even the people I knew who were fine with gay people, they were kind of like, yeah, what you do behind closed doors is fine. Just don't, you know, waltz down Main Street holding hands with a guy. Which now you say that and you hear like that's really bad. But back then, the progressive people were thinking that way. And I just remember, I remember specifically being in a Chinese restaurant and there was this gay couple holding hands and the reactions, people were talking about them so openly. And I remember a lot of people were saying like, I don't care what they do. I'm not homophobic. I just don't understand why they're doing that in front of children. And that was just like the mindset, I feel like. I feel like so much homophobia was masked behind protect the children. And I feel like that was like the antithesis of the general feel of gay people. I also have to keep in mind, 2009, gay marriage isn't legal yet. Don't ask, don't tell is still in the military. Like, a lot has changed in 10 years. And I honestly forget, too, until I think back. Like, and just going back in terms of, like, even my high school experience, I went to high school after GLEE came out, so I'm not that old. But when I was in high school, there were no openly gay people. There were people who people suspected to be gay. I think maybe one or two did come out eventually, but it wasn't, the world didn't look how it did now. And I'm not one of those people who thinks the world is perfect now either. I do recognize I'm in New York City now and I'm in like a queer bubble and things are different. But anyway, that's a whole different video. I'll focus on GLEE. GLEE. I say all this to say, so there was this mindset of like keeping gayness away from children. Like there were shows with queer representation like Will and Grace, but it was like a show that came on at night and it was for adults. And there were like other adult shows with queer characters, but they were for adults or on HBO or something like that. Things that were like kind of out of sight of young people. And so that was the vibe I was in. So when GLEE came out, I was like in middle school. I was in middle school, and at this point, it was one of the first things with queer representation targeted for kids. And that kind of went, not even kids, but for young people. And so that kind of really went against the general consensus. As I said before, everyone kind of felt like, even the people who were progressive were like, gay is fine as long as it's over there. So there was a lot of backlash. I say all of that to lead up that when GLEE first came on my radar, it wasn't even because I saw it. People were talking about it. There were parent groups being like, don't let your kids watch this. I honestly think the first time I heard about GLEE was in church. I'm pretty sure I heard someone preaching about it and being like, yeah, they're trying to promote homosexuality to kids. They're trying to turn kids gay, blah, 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 blah. That was like what I heard the most about GLEE. all through middle school, I remember just keep hearing and hearing, this is the show that's trying to like promote homosexuality to kids. And the funny thing is, I didn't even know what gay was at the time. I had never heard the word. I had never heard it just outrightly said. I didn't know that was the thing that like other people were experiencing. And so I say all this to kind of just build the backdrop for when I first saw Glee, to really kind of understand why it holds such a stronghold for people in my generation who were there when it hit the scene, because it really did make a difference. And I know it's like hard for people who are seeing it now to really grasp that, because the show didn't age well. It is problematic, but for the time, it really was breaking down doors. And so that's why I decided to start with Glee, because I feel like it is the blueprint for me. And when I'm going to rank other shows later, it all kind of does come back to some of the things Glee did, because Glee was the first time I saw queer representation at all. It was the first time I really even understood what the word was. I didn't know why I wasn't allowed to watch it. I just knew that there was something on there that wasn't meant for kids. I assumed teen drinking or sex or something. I honestly, gay wasn't on my radar. I didn't know there was a word for it. I didn't know it was something that was going on. I didn't know it was like a community of people. I didn't know that at the time. So all that to say, I was not supposed to watch it, and I had friends at school talking about it. And I remember so clearly, Alyssa in my chorus class loved Glee, and she was always talking about it. And she was always like, you should watch it, you should watch it, you should watch it. I'm like, my parents don't allow me to, blah, 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 blah. And the household I grew up in, like, if our parents told us not to do something, we just didn't do it because our parents were crazy. But, anyway, I say all that to say, so I remember where I was the first time I saw Glee. Like, that's how much of an impact Glee had on me. I was in an airport. We had a layover. It was the year we went to Spain. So that I would have been 15. So Glee at this point had been on for a while. And so I'm pretty sure it was a rerun playing, because it had to have been a rerun playing, because Glee came out years before that. Like I said, it came out when I was in middle school. And so I remember it was playing in the airport, and it was specifically the episode where Kurt's bully kisses him. And so first of all, I remember like being like, whoa. Like by 15, by 15 I knew what gay was, but I had never like seen it out in the open in public. I just knew of it as this thing that I was like coming to terms with, and like hearing the word and whispers and stuff. And like, I think that really goes to show how much things change, because I know some people now, when I just said I'm 15 and I had never like seen it, people probably like, are you for real? But that's how different of a time it was. There were no gay characters on TV. Where I was, there were hardly any gay people or queer people at all in real life walking around. When it gets warm out, they go to town on those motorcycles. But anyway, so I was 15, and I remember it was the episode where Kurt's confronting his bully, this guy who's been harassing Kurt for being gay for so long, and then the bully kisses Kurt. I remember being shocked. I remember my mind just being blown, because I'm watching the scene, and I remember that scene so clearly, y'all. I remember being in the airport, because I remember the bully is like being all in Kurt's face, like punches the locker, and Kurt stands up for himself. He's like, hey, what's your problem?
Hey! I am talking to you!
Girls' locker room's next door.
What is your problem?
And he goes and follows him. He's like, what's your problem with me? And then the bully kisses him. And I remember me and my family, we all were just shocked. And the airport was like silent. We were all like, the bully likes boys too? And so then I just remember doors just opening. I remember just being like, oh my gosh. So not only is Kurt gay, but the bully is gay too. There's more than one gay person existing in a place in one time. Like, it really just opened the door. And that whole episode was just so like heavy about like homophobia, embracing homophobia and being yourself and embracing yourself. And Kurt talks about how he came to terms with himself, and then got the wheels turning for me. So that door just opened up a lot. That episode opened up a lot of stuff. So after that, I was like, I have to watch Glee. So I went back, snuck, and watched the whole caught up without my parents' permission. snuck and watched, and at that point I was like a hard Glee fan. And so Glee was just like a bunch of firsts for me in terms of representation. It was the first time I saw not only gay characters, but a gay teen in school that was open. Because like I said, we didn't have any openly LGBT people at my school, so I wasn't seeing that in real life. I only was seeing it on Glee. I was seeing Kurt living in his truth. I saw how his parent reacted to it. I saw him get into his first relationship with Blaine, and that was like mind-boggling, because it was one thing for me to see a gay character on TV, but to see him form like a relationship, a healthy relationship, like that was something that I've never seen, and honestly didn't even know it was possible. Like I knew, like I said, in real life I never had even seen gay people like in the streets holding hands or anything like that. So like to just see them in like a normal relationship that was just the same as the hetero relationship was just so different for me. And then it expanded, and then of course Santana and Brittany become a couple, and that was my first time seeing lesbian representation as well. And then when Unique comes on, that was my first time having any experience with the trans community. I had never seen a trans person. I had never even heard the word trans. So again, I think this is where Glee really was busting down those doors. And is the representation the best? I don't know. I don't think so. But for the time, that was just representation, period. And for it to be, you know, aimed toward a young audience, it changed everything. So I honestly think that Glee changed the game. And I know that sounds crazy to say, but you had to be there. I feel like it's one of those you had to be there moments, because when I talk to people who were there at the time, though, we all remember, like, Glee just shaking shit up. We were not ready. And there was just so much controversy over everything that they did on there. And it was great. So, all that to say, do I think Glee stands the sands of time? I mean, the first two seasons I still think are great. I watched the first two seasons. I think they're fun. The show did go off the rails at the end. But of course, I had to start with Glee because, like I said, Glee literally introduced the LGBTQ community to me. It let me know. And Glee's all about that, right? You know, Glee's all about found family and community, and all about these people coming together and celebrating each other's differences. And that just meant so much to me at the time, because not only was I coming to terms with my identity, but I just didn't know that there were other people doing the same. I honestly, at that point in my life, was just like, this is a conceal don't feel situation, and I'm just going to be dealing with this forever. Like, you couldn't have told me otherwise. I thought it was very giving main character energy, Elsa, ice powers. I'm the only one who has this. No one else knows how much I struggle to keep, like, all that to say, it opened the door. It let me know that it also showed me not only that this community exists in the show, but that I could find this community too. And that's what happened. Like, I honestly did find other queer people in my theater program, just like they did on Glee, that I was eventually able to, like, be my authentic self with. And they did the same. And, like, I honestly feel like Glee is a part of the reason that happened. It kind of gave us a roadmap to where we can find our community, where we can find other people like us. And yeah, and it all worked out for the best. It's time for me to give the score on Glee. So, after deliberating and thinking hard, I'm going to break all the scores down to different categories, and then it gets the overall score. So for enjoyment, 8.5. I definitely give Glee an 8.5 because I think even if you watch it now, it's definitely entertaining. It's problematic, but it's entertaining. It's wild. It's a fever dream. Like, when I explain plot points of Glee, people are like, what is this show? I was literally talking about it in front of my coworker who hasn't seen it. And I was talking about how Rachel sent Sunshine to a crack house. And they were like, what? Yeah, that's a plot point. Like, Glee is wild, plot-wise. But it's entertaining, so I give it an 8.5. I think then it was entertaining. I honestly think now, the first few seasons, they're still good. They hold up. Now, for plot itself, I give it a 5. A 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10. Because, like I said, it goes off the rails. When Sue built a fake elevator to hold Blaine and Kurt captive that was when I was like, okay, y'all have lost your minds in the writer's room. So I give it a 5. I will say that Glee has really, really strong moments strung together by nonsense. Like, there's so many moments I think when Kurt's dad is in the hospital after having a heart attack, I feel like that is a beautiful episode. I feel like it's very meaningful and beautiful. I feel like when Kurt, I honestly feel like any episode dealing with Kurt is meaningful and impactful because it was dealing with something that had not been dealt with on television before. Anything with Santana, when Santana tried to come out to her abuela, iconic. Like, I feel like in terms of all the queer characters, almost everything that happened with them was the first time we were seeing it on TV. Gold. So half the plot is great and half of it's complete and utter nonsense. So for that, I give it a 5 right down the middle. So as far as diversity, I give it a 7.5. I feel like it was diverse at the time, and I feel like in theory it's diverse, but like I said, it's a little problematic. Like Mercedes' character, you know, I feel like if that show came out now, I feel like Mercedes would be given justice because her character is kind of just like fierce black woman, which is fine, but they don't really ever dive into like the microaggressions that she faces in literally every episode, or the fact that she is the only black character and she's constantly getting overstepped by people who aren't as talented as her. I said it. And then you have all the Asian jokes that happen between Tina and Mike, which are offensive, and you get some jokes about Santana. So I feel like my score might be too high. I actually gave it a 7.5 because, yeah, it has a diverse cast, but they don't utilize that diversity the way that they should. In terms of uniqueness, I give it a 9, which is high, but I'm giving it a score of 9 based off of when it came out. Like I said, it was literally the first show on TV with, like, gay teens that was marketed for teens that wasn't like, ooh, being gay is bad. It was like I said, it broke down barriers for the time, and it was definitely, it opened doors. So I definitely give it a 9 as far as uniqueness. And in terms of representation, I give it a 10. And I know people who will see it now for the first time will be like, what? But again, I'm just thinking back to child me who had never seen other LGBT people before. And then all of a sudden I had the show with Kurt, Santana, Brittany, Unique, Blaine, and so many others that I can't even think of right now. Like, and I know in the later cast, there's the football player. By the end, the show got bad, so I don't really remember. But that's more queer people that I had ever seen anywhere, let alone on a TV show. So, and I feel like when it dealt with queerness, it dealt with it well. I could definitely tell that there were queer people in the writer's room, and Ryan Murphy knew what he was doing. Because, like I said, Mercedes' blackness and all the PLC characters are written complete garbage. But the queerness is dealt with such authenticity. So, putting that score together, it averages out at an 8 out of 10. So, that is my score for Glee, 8 out of 10. If you haven't seen it, I recommend go watch it. It's on Disney Plus now, but again, it did not age well. Cannot stress that enough. But it's still fun. It's a fun watch. Definitely the first 2 seasons. You might want to stop after season 4. But I definitely recommend it. Let me know what you think of Glee in the comments. Where are the other Gleeks? I know there have to be other Gleeks. What other movies and TV shows do you think I should review? Check here tomorrow and see my next post.